RJ, or it's on C.
Hello. You caught me being terribly nosy, I'm afraid. Well, actually, I've joined a number of people here at Jersey Zoo who are watching and recording how the animals behave. And although it's a very pleasant way of passing on an hour or two, there are very serious and worthwhile reasons for doing it as well. There was a time when all zoos were exhibition areas, with animals on display just to amuse and entertain the public. Sadly, there are still a few zoos where this happens, but not in Jersey. Visitors are welcome to wander round, but the main reason why animals are here is not for entertainment, as you'll know if you've been following this series. We're going to find out how research helps animals in captivity and many of the endangered species in the wild. And Michael Bassett will meet young people who are discovering ways they can help British wildlife. Also, he'll have the latest news on how our seals are coping with the virus that has killed so many of them. It wouldn't be quite right to call the staff here zookeepers. Animal carers is probably closer. Although it's very important that they provide the right food and make sure the animals live in clean conditions, their jobs involve much more. Like catching a palmer wallaby. This native of Australia was thought to be extinct until it was rediscovered just over 20 years ago. Now, I know female wallabies and kangaroos have pouches where the babies, or joeys as they're called, live their first few months, but it still amazes me. The wallabies are caught so they can be weighed. If there's a joey in the pouch, it's also checked. This one's a month old. Almost every move an animal makes is noted down. When a white-naped crane lays an egg. How a family of marmosets look after the babies. When a bat decides it's time to sleep. It can be impossible to watch rare animals in their natural habitats. For a start, there aren't many of them. Often they're very shy and active only at night. So the one chance of studying them is in captivity. All this information adds to the understanding of how animals live. Without this knowledge, it's very difficult to help them survive in the wild. When a particular species needs to be studied a little closer, the zoo has a centre where animals can be kept in special conditions. The research officer is William Oliver.
We've had these animals, which are small, very small rabbits, which come from Mexico. They're very rare in the wild, and indeed they're quite seriously endangered. And they're not kept very often, and they've proven difficult to keep in captivity, in as much as we can keep them for quite a long time, but they don't breed very often, which is unlike rabbits. So what we try to do is to simulate the conditions they come from, they're found in Mexico. So we've got them on a slope, we've got them in with dense grassy bunches here, which is the sort of habitat they live in the wild, when they're hoping they'll perform in reproductive terms much better than they've performed in the past. And also it gives us an opportunity to look at the sort of natural behaviours of the animals, and hopefully we can learn lessons from that. It isn't just simply a case of documenting the sort of behaviours that the animals have. It's also a case of providing the sort of basic information which enables us to have a better idea of their needs in captivity.
Apart from studying animals, there are problems to solve, and here's a beauty. How do you catch a 70-kilo bear that has escaped into the zoo grounds? This is Barbara, a spectacled bear from the mountains of South America, so she's well used to heights. She took her walkabout after a reinforced window of her enclosure was broken. How was a mystery, but all the staff turned out to get her back and protect the public. After 5 hours up an oak tree eating acorns, the bear gets thirsty and a little lonely. Her companion Wolfgang didn't appear too pleased about her break for freedom, But soon, all was forgiven. As well as the staff studying the animals, there are visiting scientists and students from the International Training Centre, which is next door to the zoo. Apart from lectures, the students study the animals for all kinds of projects, from the lifestyle of silvery marmosets to the design of a cage for colobus monkeys. Students come from all over the world to pick up the know-how gained here over almost 30 years. And they take that knowledge back to where it can do the most good, the countries in which many of these endangered animals live. A computer helps to sort out the thousands of facts and figures from the observations made by staff and students. Also, family details of species in captivity are fed in, so the brothers, sisters or cousins of, say, an orangutan can be traced to where they are in any zoo collection in the world. This is vital information in captive breeding programs. The uses of computers are increasing all the time, so who knows how they'll be helping endangered animals in the future. The possibilities are almost limitless. Modern technology is helping in many other ways. A new operation is being performed at the zoo's hospital. First, the patient, a macaw, is given an anaesthetic. To study animals, it's essential to be able to identify them. That can be done in several ways. Birds have coloured or numbered rings. Other animals have tags attached to their ears, but these can come off or get caught up in branches. The new way is to put a tiny electronic device just under their skin, which doesn't harm them and stays in for life. Each animal has its own code of numbers and letters, which can be read by a special meter. Sometime in the future, it'll be possible to identify animals from hundreds of meters away using a similar method. So the progress of an animal released into the wild can be followed, even in the dark. The zoo hospital doesn't deal with emergencies very often, but the staff are used to coping with unusual problems, whether it's a sick snake or a gorilla that's having trouble giving birth. Nandi arrived in the early days of the zoo. She was born in the wild, and she's been here 28 years. A surgeon who normally deals with human births was called in from the island's hospital. Sadly, the baby died, but Nandi was saved. In the wild, she would probably have died too. Nandi was soon back with her 5-year-old son Mutaba and Yambo, Mutaba's father. What everyone here aims for is the prevention of health problems, which means the correct food and living conditions, plus regular medical checks. That's done by a biologist working with the latest equipment. Every animal is tested for hidden diseases or parasites. They're checked more often than most human beings. And if an animal dies, the biologist will perform a post-mortem to find out why and if there's a threat to others. The animals here are possibly healthier than their relations in the wild. Hopefully one day, with all the research being done in Jersey and around the world, that's where the offspring of these animals will spend their lives. Now over to Michael, who's been finding out what you can do to help British wildlife.
I'm off on a couple of expeditions. The first is with the Young People's Trust for the Environment and Nature Conservation. Every year they hold a summer school in Dorset, which is a superb area for studying nature with its coastal walks, downland and woods. If you want to help in the enormous job of saving wildlife but don't know where to start, it's a good idea to join a club or society which is concerned with conservation. That way you meet other people with the same ideas as yourself and you tap in on a lot of information.
But this rather dull, uninteresting green plant that's growing here.
The founder of the trust is Cyril Littlewood.
I wonder if you've ever realised that by reversing your binocular and bringing an object very close to the eyepiece, you've got a very handy magnifying glass. And simply by looking in very, very close, you can see this little flower. Can anybody identify that flower, by the way? No, we haven't seen it before today. It's eyebright.
An expedition into some woodland gives members the chance to do a bit of nature detective work. They're shown how by Cyril's wife, Diane.
Right, well, we're going to make plaster casts of deer footprints. What's a deer footprint called, first of all? Anybody tell me what's a deer footprint? No? It's called a slot. OK, so we're going to make a plaster cast of a slot. Now, all you need to make a plaster cast is a little strip of card, like this, and a paper clip.
You have to put the card carefully round the slot, then pour in plaster of Paris. What we found were the tracks of roe deer, the most shy of all our deer. It almost became extinct in Britain until they were reintroduced during the last century. Should we see what you got?
Okay.
Should we start this end and work down? Go on, have a look at yours. Rock it backwards. That's it. Oh, wow. That's not bad. What about this one? That's an absolutely brilliant one. I think that's probably the best one we've got so far, isn't it? Cyril Littlewood has been concerned about the destruction of wildlife and our environment for many years, so his views on the future of our countryside are the result of a lot of thought.
When you look around, this is a very beautiful piece of countryside. It's typical southern British or Dorset countryside, and I'd hate to see it ruined by anything. Development, exploitation of any kind, even any more farming. What we've got to think of now and for the future is looking after our countryside. It's all very well talking about rhinos and elephants and all these exotic animals. Yes, we want to save those, but we want to look after our own smaller wildlife and our own heritage, this British countryside that we've got.
One of our small animals that has only recently been given protection by law is the dormouse. A few miles from the Cheddar Gorge in Somerset, a group from the Wells Cathedral School is helping in a survey of dormice to find out where they live and just how endangered they are. It's run by the Dormouse Project with the help of the Worldwide Fund for Nature and other organisations. One of the founders of the project is Doug Woods.
You think there's one in here, do you? Yes, there is. Lovely. There we are.
Sweet. How much do they usually weigh?
And it's a male. Well, somewhere about 20 grams until the autumn when they put on a lot of weight. Now, we're marking by fur clipping, and this doesn't hurt them, and all we do is to clip this golden guard hair off so that we can see that we've caught him before, and we can then estimate the number of dormice that we've got in the wood. Now then, I reckon that he's going to weigh somewhere about 20 grams. It's a very lively mouse, this one. Now, do you remember what the bag weighs? It's about 2 grams, isn't it? So, what does that say? What do you think? 21. So it weighs 19 grams, isn't it? Which is about right, which is a jolly good weight for a male dormouse at this time of year. Go on in, go on. That's it. You'll crawl in very slowly.
There are almost 500 boxes to check every month, and it will take several years of study to find out if the dormice round here are in real danger.
The world's oceans can be an incredibly rich source of food and energy and indeed leisure. But what we're doing at the moment is putting so much rubbish into the world's seas that we're killing all the life in it. And pretty soon, that's going to have a really damaging effect on life on the land.
According to some scientists, pollution of the seas around Britain helped to bring on the virus which has killed thousands of seals over the last couple of years. So far this summer, the RSPCA at Docking in Norfolk said that no seals have been found with the virus. But the Seal Rescue Centre in Orkney, off the northern tip of Scotland, has bad news. Over 60 dead pups have been washed ashore, and the centre has at least 4 more with the virus. It's feared that a larger outbreak of the virus could happen at any time now. A quarter of Britain's common seals live in the Orkneys, so that's a very serious threat, and with so many young seals dying, the future looks grim.
Funny things, human beings, aren't we? Some of them seem to spend all their time polluting the seas and damaging wildlife, while others spend all their time trying to help save it. Now, I've come a long way from the sea to meet 2 people who've dedicated their lives to help preserve and save British wildlife. And unbelievably, they do this in the middle of a housing estate in Aylesbury, where they're set up one of Britain's only wildlife hospitals, which includes St Tiggywinkle's, the only hedgehog hospital in the world.
It's run by Les and Sue Stocker. So far this year, over 7,000 casualties have been brought in. Each one is cared for by Les and Sue, plus a team of voluntary helpers and the local vet.
That's quite bad. What that means is there's some sort of obstruction, I should think. Let's see what we can draw out from there. I mean, that's a heck of a lot for a little chap this size.
Isn't it?
This will relieve him in the...
Yeah.
At this stage, the worry is there's got to be an underlying thing which is causing it.
Among the most common injuries are broken legs or wings. But many of the problems have never been dealt with before.
Everything that comes in here is more or less new to science, you know, and especially being our vet. I mean, things I put in front of him, you know, nobody's ever seen them before, and things like that. These two baby hedgehogs this morning, I mean, one's got a double hernia, and putting a stomach tube down a baby hedgehog. It's never been done before, but this is what our work's all about.
And most people say they love wildlife in some way, but you seem to have let it take over your lives here. Why have you done that?
Well, I think it was just one of those things that happened. I found that I had the patience to work with animals, and the more I got involved with it, the more I realised that there wasn't anybody to do the work. And so we sort of opened our doors to all these wildlife casualties, and they're just coming from everywhere now.
Have you got any advice for the young viewers who are watching this, what they can do if they find something like an injured blackbird in the wild?
Right. Well, the first thing they don't do is they don't pick up babies, baby anything. If they find an injured blackbird or something they can handle, the best thing is to take it in, keep it warm, put it in a dark cardboard box, and then go through like a phone directory and find somebody who's experienced at taking in birds. It's usually around, and get it taken to then get the parents to take it there. Yeah. If it's a large animal like a fox or a badger, do not touch. Yeah. You know, just make a note of where it is and go and get an adult or somebody who knows what they're doing.
That's good advice from someone who knows. Back to Sue, who has details of the next programme.
We know that a lot of people spend a lot of time on research, hoping to prevent more wild animals from following the dodo into extinction. Now, in order to do that kind of work, you have to be an optimist and hope that one day the animals in your care or their offspring will be released into the wild. Now, some of them already have been, and the golden lion tamarin is an example. In the next programme, we'll be looking at a few more endangered species who are going home. So make sure you don't miss that. Meanwhile, from Michael and from me, bye-bye.